before, right? So, Direct Carlo, Alicia's the one who has seen your movie on Netflix.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for watching, Alicia.
What's your review of the movie, Alicia?
Oh,
It's okay.
It's okay.
it's all right. It's fine. It didn't scare me. Oh, wow.
Oh, Rain's friend is here. Who's your friend, Rain?
Is that Anton?
Her name is
Yeah,
Daniel.
Daniel. Okay, we'll
But
wait for.
she's not here yet.
Okay, we'll wait for her. So
Is that
Rain,
Anton?
Mimi,
It's Anton.
and Rain and Uriel have been joining us.
Cool.
Jacob. Is it Jacob or Jacob or Jacob?
Hello.
Oh, hi, Jacob.
Hello.
Where are you listening from, Jacob?
I'm listening to you.
Oh, okay.
What's your city, Jacob?
I live in Singapore.
Oh, from Singapore. Okay.
Nice. Hello, Carlos the Taco. I see you brought your dad with you.
I think his dad's more interested than in this stuff.
What's up, Anton?
Konnichiwa.
Hello.
Hey, Anton. Hey, what's up?
So is anyone making a movie already? A horror movie here already? Anybody started? What, Mimi, have you started on yours?
I like your cat ears, Mimi.
And Rain. Okay, we can wait for Rain's friend. So
Cool. Oh,
She
she's
was
asking you.
glitching
It's her
now.
head. It's her headphones.
So we can also share this. This is streaming on Vivita Philippines on Facebook and Vivi Stop Baguio on YouTube.
yeah, so say hi. Everyone can see you.
Are we starting officially now?
Yeah, we can. It's already live, so we can
Cool.
start.
Hello, everyone.
And then we'll just let the
Okay.
people who are late come in. So, but you can go ahead. So I'm going to introduce you to Direct Carlo. So he's an actual movie and TV commercial director. He's also acted before in commercials, right, Direct? So,
A long time ago with Anton.
yeah. And how long have you been directing?
I've been
Okay.
directing since I was the age of, I think, Alicia. I've been directing films since I was maybe like 12 years old. So I've always wanted to make films, and I was lucky enough that I had a dad and mom who were very supportive, and it just so happened my dad was also an avid photographer, so he had all these cameras lying around, so I would just pick them up and just start shooting stuff. My sisters were my first actors, and they hated me for it because I forced them to do all sorts of crazy things like in our farm and in the house. But that was when I realized I really wanted to make movies. So I'm very excited to hear everyone's stories here. I think it's so cool that you guys are doing this filmmaking workshop, and it's my favorite subject too. And it's about horror, which I think is great. Not many people would have thought to teach kids how to make horror movies, but thankfully Candy and Gabe are crazy enough and demented enough to have done it. I'm totally in support of it, and I'll explain why later in my presentation. So I heard there, guys. Okay, so Jacob is from Singapore. Who's from Baguio? One of my favorite places in the world. Rain, Uriel, hi guys. You guys are from. Gabe is from Baguio.
Yeah.
Nice. Alicia, where are you from? Oh, there, somebody joined. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, I think this is your friend Rain.
Okay.
Yeah. Where's your friend from?
Ah,
DK.
Wait for her. Oh, she's here. Hello. Say hi to your friend Rain.
All right.
ah.
Hi.
Okay,
There,
technical difficulties are
Danes. Hello.
painful.
Danes is
Okay, no
here from the
worries.
void. Okay, I love
Yes,
it.
I escaped the void for this one meeting.
Love it. Awesome.
Turn over to Direct Carlo so he can tell you about how to tell stories with your camera, right? Horror stories with your camera.
Right, let's do it. Okay. Hi guys. So I will just share my screen, just so you can know a little bit more about who I am first. Okay. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Whoa.
Just say yes or no, thumbs up if you can see it. Awesome. Okay. So yeah. So like what Candy and Gabe mentioned, I'm a film director. I've been doing this for those of you that just joined. Oh, some other people still want to join. Awesome. Um, so I've been doing this since I was your age, guys. Since I was a kid. I grew up in a place called Bacolod, and I was lucky enough to have a video camera, which you can see. Oh, hello. Sorry, is that me? Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I spent my childhood and my high school years making small films with a camera, which is the cameras back then are very ancient compared to now. But my life changing moment was when I had to do a project when I was third year high school, and I was offered the option by my English teacher to write a really 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 long thesis paper, or I could do a film with my friends. So naturally, having a camera, I said yes. So I wanted to do a film. So the film I made was a film called Steven, and it was about a high school loner who gets bullied by the school bad guys, and they accidentally kill him. But he comes back to life, and in true slasher film form, he takes revenge on them one by one. And just like that, I fell in love with the movies. And I think one of you here wants to do a slasher film. Awesome. Full support of that. So my very first official film was a slasher film, and you know what? I really enjoyed doing it, and so ever since then, I've been directing films ever since. And oops, sorry. How do I go to my screen? Okay, so I've been fortunate enough to have done two movies so far. The first one was a film I did when I was living in Australia called The Tunnel. It's a found footage horror film. And the second film I did, which is out on Netflix, is a film called Sunod, which is a Filipino ghost story. So I've been lucky to be able to do those films, and I plan to shoot more, COVID permitting, and hopefully my dream movie is to do a zombie film. So I'm crossing my fingers that I can do that soon. So if you guys want to be a zombie, let me know. I'm looking for actors if you guys want to be a zombie. So okay, how did you may ask, no, like how did I get into horror? And this is something I'm going to ask you guys later on as well. So pretty much like you guys, I got my horror experience through stories that my parents would tell, to keep me well behaved and to stay home and to be a good boy. I'm sure you guys know of these stories. Who here has heard of Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood? Raise your hands. I mean, of course, everybody does. These were stories that have been told, like hundreds of years ago by parents wanting to scare their children, and wanting to make their children stay home and be obedient, and all that. So I would say true. I would say it's pretty true, right? Like all kids are exposed to horror at an early age, and by our parents. So I think for me, it's good to know about things that scare you, because I think by doing that it prepares you for the real world. But funny enough, the scary story that got me into horror was told by my dad, not to scare me, but rather to teach me a lesson. So it was a movie that he wanted to show me when I was 6 years old, because he wanted to teach me something about what was happening in the oceans and about something very horrific that was happening in the real world. And this movie was called Jaws. And who here has seen Jaws? And if you don't, I highly recommend that you guys see it. It's one of the best, not just horror films. I think it's one of the best movies of all time. Now, believe it or not, guys, I watched this movie when I was 6 years old. And the reason why my dad wanted me to see this, despite the fact that it was scary, it had some blood, is my dad wanted to show me that because of this movie, sharks in the real world were being killed everywhere, and that was becoming a problem. So he wanted to show me this movie to show that, hey, sharks aren't like this in the real world. I want you to know that they're getting a bad rap, but sharks are actually very important in the environment. So it was so yeah. So I watched this movie, I fell in love with it, and then I learned a very important lesson about the environment. But because of this, I also learned to fall in love with the movies, especially the ones directed by this guy, who I'm sure you know. And his name is Steven Spielberg. And yes, Steven, my character in my slasher movie, Steven, was named after this guy, Steven Spielberg. And so I spent my childhood watching these movies. Who here has seen E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Raiders of the Lost Ark? Okay, these were the movies that my parents allowed me to watch because they were quote unquote family friendly. But little did they know that they had some pretty scary scenes in them as well. Like if you look at the first part of E.T., there's some really creepy horror going on just before E.T. comes out. Same thing with Close Encounters when the kid gets abducted. So I realized by watching these films that I like being scared. I like being scared in movies. And what made me so happy was that my younger cousins and I all love being scared by movies. And so eventually the Steven Spielberg movies that we would watch would then segue to different types of movies. And suddenly we would do sleepovers and sleep in each other's houses. And we would swap stories about which scary movies we saw. So the heroes or the superstar film horror guys that from my generation were guys like Jason from Friday the 13th, Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street, and of course the terrifying alien creature from Alien. So these were the characters and the creatures that really made me love horror movies, and it made me be scared. And it made me realize, you know what? And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, as kids, we love being scared, right? Like there's something really cool about being together, like in a campsite or hiding under the blankets with a flashlight and telling scary stories. And for me, I think it's okay for kids to be scared. And I love being scared. I think it's great. In fact, I think we should all experience fear through some shape or form at some point in our lives. Because for me, I realized when I would watch scary movies, I realized, hey, by facing my movie fears, I am actually braver. It gave me the courage to face my real ones. So, and I think that's the importance of horror and what horror can do. So, and through the years, I've faced my fears, and let me tell you something: making a movie is one of the scariest things I've ever done. So I'm here to help guide you through the real life horror as you guys embark on making your horror films. So before I go on, I just want to really quickly ask you guys some questions. So, like, what's your horror story? Like, I want to know a little bit more about like the stories you guys want to tell. Why do you guys love scary movies? Do you guys want to share a little bit of that for a bit?
Yeah, I think in the chat,
Oh, there
Rain
you go.
says she loves being scared by anything except her sister.
Oh,
And
yes, the sister.
Dane
Right.
says that scary movies with friends and family is 100 times better. That's true. Watching it with friends and family. What about
Yes.
the others?
Anyone else? Like Mimi says, I have a sudden urge to watch Host. Yes, yeah, that's a very cool movie. And in fact, the plot of that movie is exactly what's happening now. It's like a Zoom call and scary. Ooh, Mimi says the first horror movie she saw was Sixth Sense. Excellent
Ah,
film. That's a great movie. I love that movie too. Rain says it's like being abducted. Okay.
Carlos says they have noisy neighbors that they want to scare.
Dane says, all my scary stories for all the times I've almost died. Whoa.
Okay. So okay, what I want to know is what is making you guys want to do this workshop and do a horror film or a scary film? What's making you guys? What made you guys decide that Okay, I can tell from your comments that you guys are all horror fans and you like being scared. But what was it that made you want to tell stories as a director, as a filmmaker?
Anyone? Why do you want to make a scary movie?
Yeah, why do you guys want to make a scary movie? Aside from chatting, feel free to talk as well, guys. Like, don't be shy. Okay. Dane says she says horror is a genre that really evokes strong emotion. Absolutely correct. I think horror absolutely evokes strong emotion. I think in many cases more than any other genre, because by making you afraid, you're forced to confront every other emotion, right? Like sadness and happiness and joy. And I think being scared makes you appreciate being happy a lot more. Am I right? So has anyone here done a film already? Has anyone here like had the chance to play with a camera and shoot something, even just for themselves or for at home? Okay, I know Mimi. I listened to your talk. I listened to the workshop the other day. I know Mimi, you're working on a slasher film. Very cool. So, do you have an idea of what the plot is, or is it something you're keeping in secret and you're just gonna drop it and surprise and shock the world when you're ready?
Or you can tell us a little bit about it, like like a teaser. You can talk, so it's faster.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can chime in.
You can unmute.
Okay.
Can I speak?
Yes, go Danes.
Okay, yes. I was gonna say, yeah, I'm so like new here. So I've done some small, not serious skits because I never had the guts to do anything legit. So, and about the workshop, I actually, shh, I about like the especially about what really caught me about this workshop is that like recently I've been um seeing a lot of video essays on how horror on specifically the horror genre, like because it's not just jump scares and death and blood and stuff, right? There's like a whole art to it, and like that's actually what got me into it. I just see a lot of video essays, but I still don't have enough knowledge or the guts to try something myself, even though I know that I should probably try.
Nice. But do you have a story in mind already, at least?
I have a few plots. I wrote them in a notebook, but then I never had like I've never really been too confident in any of them yet because I feel like I want to like get more information before I go off writing.
Right. But I think that the fact that you are writing is a very good step. I would say it's the most important first step, because putting your ideas on paper is an important part of my own process. And I'm sure other artists, guys like Gabe, who does comedy, Candy, who's a production designer. I mean, being able to journal and put your ideas like that. Oh my! From the looks of it, you draw so much better than me. I'm just a scribbler.
Oh, thank you. I've been drawing for like 6 years.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I
Yeah.
might hire you as a storyboard artist. I
Oh,
mean,
yes, please.
you're,
Yes, please.
I think you're on the right track of. I think you're doing it. Same thing with guys like Mimi. It seems like Mimi's got some cool ideas. I think a very important part is being able to put it down on paper before you share it with the world. Because by editing yourself, there you go, by writing down and putting all your ideas, you kind of filter and you kind of develop your process through there. So for me, there's nothing better than sitting alone and just writing down like thoughts and ideas. And I'll talk to you guys a bit more about that process later on, actually. So I'd say you're definitely on the right track. Cool.
Carlos
Does anyone else?
Carlos says they want to recreate Bahay sa Balete.
Oh, that would be a great movie. I mean, I think a lot of people who went to amusement parks in the 90s and there was always like a Bahay sa Balete haunted house.
Sa ano? Sa Big Bang sa Alabang.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? Carlo, I think your dad Anton would make a very good ghost. he could be a very scary Momo, like hiding in the corner. But yeah, I think Bahay sa Balete would be a good story to remake, especially as a movie, because it's a Filipino story. It's got a Filipino, backstory behind it. So yeah, why not? So is that what you guys are gonna do, Carlo? That would be very cool.
Yeah, we're gonna do it, but for our neighbors. We want to make it here in the house. And we want to scare our noisy neighbors.
I have a suggestion for how you guys can shoot it. It's part of my camera angles later. I think.
Game,
And
game.
Anton, I know you like zombie films and stuff, so I
Yup.
think the way you could shoot it would be something like how I'll show you guys later.
Nice, thanks, man.
Cool. All right. Okay. Does anybody here? Okay. Aside from doing this film, does everybody here like have like real dreams of doing films like as a job of like making films?
Maybe they want to try and see if it's something they like.
Yeah. So I guess I can use this opportunity to segue into talking about what my job is or what a director would do. So let me share my screen again. Okay. So I get asked this a lot. Derek, what do you do? I've gotten this question flat out, and people say, so what does a director do other than people think that being a director is all about, yelling action and cut and market. Yes, we do that. But at the same time, I think to be a director, you also need to be somebody who knows how to inspire and motivate. You need to be able to inspire actors to do your lines. You need to be able to motivate a crew. You need to be able to tell your production designer your vision so that someone like Candy can be like, that's the most amazing idea, Direct. Yes, I'll do this for you with as little budget as possible. And she's done that for me many times. So I think being a director needs to be all of that and more. You need to be a leader. You need to be somebody who's very clear in speaking and clear in delivering your vision. But simply put, a director, a film director, is all about telling stories with a camera. So it is my job to tell stories using a camera. And the camera is a medium that's been around since time immemorial. Cameras back in the day used to be these heavy pieces of equipment that would take lots of people to carry. I was lucky growing up that I was able to use handycams that I was able to operate on my own. This is the camera I use now, which is a Sony. It's even much smaller. I also use drones for some of my shoots. It's crazy. Like, technology now is so advanced that you guys are very lucky because you guys get to shoot with all of these cameras and more. And most likely, most, if not all of you, will probably be shooting your films on your phones. Am I right? Who plans to be shooting on their cell phones? Raise your hands. Okay. And isn't that amazing? With phones now and the cameras that are embedded on the phones, it's so amazing because not only can you shoot on your phones, but you can literally do an edit and you can post it, you can share it all in the same day. I wish I had the technology back then, but I'll tell you now that despite all these advances and changes in technology, camera techniques and storytelling techniques remain the same. Pretty much like a camera angle back then that was used to effectively scare an audience will still work now. So what I'd like to share with you guys now are just some very basic tips and some very, very simple elements that you can shoot with your camera as you go off and do your films. But the first lesson I will tell you is, I get asked this question a lot as well. Carlo, what's the best camera for my kid? What camera should I get for my son? Or what camera should I save up for my allowance to buy? And I always tell them the best camera is the one you have right now. So you could have a GoPro, you could have your father's camcorder, which is gathering dust. You could use your own cell phone. But the important thing is you have a camera in your hand. In fact, you're probably zooming on using your camera now. So that is the best camera because it is the one that you can go out and literally shoot right now. No excuses, and you don't have to spend on anything. So I say get out and do it and shoot right away. All right, so let's get into the good stuff. Let's talk about horror filmmaking, okay? So I mentioned this before. So I'm sure you guys are excited. You guys are ready to go on set, shoot your slasher film, and shoot your actors. I heard you guys did makeup already. You guys did some makeup workshop. That's pretty cool. So I'm sure you guys are excited to start putting makeup on and start putting blood and chasing everyone with knives and yelling cut and action and being a director and becoming famous. But before you do that, there's one very important step before you even turn on your camera. Can anyone tell me what that is? What is the one thing that needs to be done before you even start shooting? Can anyone tell me what it is?
A script.
Alicia is correct. You need to know what your story is about, okay? And why is that important? It is important for you as a director to know what your story is, because you as a director, it's your job to properly explain that and to inspire people with your story, because you will get asked a lot. So Alicia, what's my story? What's your story about? I'm confused. I don't know what it is. Or why are we shooting this scene? Can you tell me why? Or Mimi, why am I a slasher here? What's my motivation for killing this character? You as a director need to know your story, and you need to be able to know it absolutely 100% in your head so that you can properly explain your vision to your cast and your crew and to be able to direct them. Now, how do I do that? And my method is very similar to what Dane's does. This isn't my notebook. This is something I got off the net, but I usually like writing my ideas on a notebook. This isn't my actual notebook. The drawings in this notebook are so much better than mine. I'm quite ashamed to show you guys my drawings. So I just found something off of the web. So the point of this drawing, or the importance of having a notebook of ideas, is that it is the best way to come up with ideas without anybody telling you it's wrong. And it's the best way to come up with things that without anyone telling you, no, it's a stupid idea, or no, that's corny. No, it's not. Like you get to create your own worlds. You get to create your own monsters, your own titles. So I would say the notebook story stage is one of the most important parts of being a director, because you get to just completely go wild. You don't have to think about budget. You don't have to think about how much things are gonna cost, asking permission from your parents. Like I would suggest, if you don't have a notebook, get one now and start writing. If you have a tablet, write down your ideas on a tablet and just come up with ideas. Like, what's your story about? So some things you need to know in your, or that I'd like you guys to write down, aside from a really cool title, of course. Okay. Come up with a plot. So a plot is basically what your story is about, right? So Next, of course, very important is like, who is your story about? Like, who is your character? Is your character a student stuck in a building while something in the basement slowly comes up after it? Like, is your character a little girl, a little boy? Is your character a parent? It's good to know who your character is and what problem that character faces, right? In most stories, especially horror, usually your lead character has a problem or a predicament that he or she needs to solve, right? So try to come up with that. So what's your story about? Like, who is your character? I would suggest write a character that you know quite well, like somebody that you can easily think up of mannerisms and characterisms. By doing it that way, you'll be able to write a really honest character. Now, in terms of writing the problem that your character faces, you can do something that is completely out of your comfort zone, like Alicia. Think of the one thing that would absolutely terrify you and write that problem into your character, right? And of course, people always ask you like, okay, that's cool. So how does a character overcome the problem? So at some point in this stage of your notebook story ideas, it would be good to know how your character solves the problem or solves the horror or solves the mystery, right? Okay, so again, know your story first. As a test, you should be able to tell your story to a stranger in about 30 seconds or less. Why is that important? Because by knowing your story in such a short amount of time, you have a firm grasp of the foundation. It becomes like, think of it as the base of like this building that you're about to build, okay? And a lot of good filmmakers and a lot of the good films that are made, if not all, always have a good story as a foundation. Let me give you an example, okay? So let me tell you about a story. Okay, in a small town in America, a group of kids slowly discover a horrific secret. And they find out that that secret is hidden in the depths of an old abandoned house. And as the kids team up and band together, they slowly all realize that they are all being hunted by a killer clown. Who knows what movie this is? It. In fact, Anton could make a pretty amazing Pennywise. So do you guys get what I'm saying? By knowing what your story is and being able to tell it in such a short in such a short and sweet way, you'll be able to inspire and get your cast and crew excited to do it. Okay, so once you have that story, what I like to do after that is once I have a story that I'm excited about, what I then do is I go off and I write my script. Okay, who can tell me what a script is? No, it's not script handwriting that your teacher forces you to do. What is a script? Or are you guys typing? Sorry, I can't read your messages, but maybe you guys can unmute and just quickly.
It's what they say. It's like a written out thing of what everyone will say at specific times.
Yes. So Rain is correct. A script is basically a written document, and it contains descriptions of a film settings, characters, dialogue, and action. So why is a script important? Because the script is essentially your map. Okay, it's going to be your Bible for your cast and crew to follow. I highly recommend having at the very least a script before you go off into your shoot, so that you know how to direct and which direction to take your actors, your crew, and your characters in. Okay, let me give you guys an example of a script. Okay, so I will share with you guys the first scene from my movie, which is called Sunod. And this is how the script was written. It was written by my friend whose name is also Anton, not Carlos's dad, but another guy named Anton Santa Maria. And this is how the script looks for the first scene. Okay. Exterior. Okay, if you look, it says scene 1, exterior, cemetery, day, dream sequence. So Anton writes a script. It says gray sky, dead trees, muddy soil. Olivia Sazon, in her 40s, is wearing all black, crying over a hole in the ground. Inside the hole is the body of her dead daughter, Annelle, who's 14 years old, in a pristine white dress, lying in the dirt without a casket. Two gravekeepers approach with shovels, and they begin burying Annelle with dirt and mud. And all of a sudden, Annelle opens her eyes, and she stares blankly at Olivia. Olivia tries to reach out to Annelle, but as she looks down, she realizes her legs are buried in the mud with grotesque roots crawling up her leg, locking her in place. The gravekeepers continue to bury Annelle. Olivia can only watch as Annelle is buried alive. The last thing remaining unburied is Annelle's right eye, which is that, wide and red, eerily blank, looking right at Olivia. Olivia screams. Okay, so this script, if you notice, it's only half a page, but if you watch the film, it happens in about a minute or 2 minutes worth. So some things that you need to show in your script. The first thing is your time of day and place. So the first thing that I underlined is called a cemetery. So you can see, and by putting the fact that it's day, tells your crew that, okay, this scene is meant to be shot during daytime. The next thing you want to show are your characters. And what usually happens is when you write your characters in the script, the first time you introduce them, they are written in capital letters so that the reader can clearly see who they are at first. So in this scene, we meet Olivia, Annelle, and two gravekeepers. So they're underlined. And the rest, as you can see, are all actions as to how the scene is described and how it plays out. So this is an example of how a script goes. Okay? If you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask me. There are so many good examples of scripts online that you can download. I highly suggest you Google. What I actually love doing is I think of my favorite movies and I Google the scripts of them. So if you have a favorite movie in mind in your head, Google the script. So let's say if your favorite movie is Monster House, Google Monster House script, and it's good to read what the script is about so that you can kind of know how the film was written and compare it to how the film plays out on screen. So that's something I like doing in my spare time. All right. Now, something I love doing in my spare time is storyboarding. Okay, who can tell me what a storyboard is? Does anyone know what the storyboard is?
Yes, Alicia. You can unmute.
The storyboard is where you show what is gonna happen.
Yep.
And has the picture of the scene.
Yes, that's correct, Alicia. So with a storyboard is basically, well, I love comics. I don't know if you guys love comics, but what I love about storyboarding is I get to take my script and do my own drawings like a comic book artist. So here are some examples of how a storyboard looks like. So as you can see, each frame has different shots that shows what's happening in the story. So you can see, a kid walking, playing the piano, walking up the stairs. So by having a storyboard you're able to visualize the movie in your head and putting it down in paper, even before you shoot it with your camera. A lot of directors don't like storyboarding, but personally, I love storyboarding because I personally think it's such a great and cheap way to make a movie. I get to just sit at home, have a cup of coffee, and just draw. But unfortunately, I'm not quite talented. Storyboarding doesn't love me, and I will show you some of my drawings, which are quite pathetic to look at. There you go. So that's how my storyboards look like. Not very good, right? But fortunately, for my movie for Sunod, I was able to work with a very talented storyboard artist. Who knows, Dane? Maybe I'll get to work with you one day. So do you guys remember the script I showed you guys earlier? That first scene about the girl in the graveyard. So this is how I storyboarded it. So if you remember the script, we see Olivia who's standing in front of a freshly dug grave. Alicia, I don't know if you remember the scene. It's the very first scene in the movie. Yep. And then we see a close-up of Olivia's face as she cries. And then we reveal in the next couple of shots that there is a dead girl in the grave, and it's a top shot, and we see Olivia crying. And then suddenly we see two strangers walk behind Olivia and stand beside her. And then we see in the next shot that they're holding shovels. And then we see a super slow-mo shot as a shovel stabs into the dirt, digging up the soil. And then we see a low angle shot from Anel's perspective inside the graveyard as the soil is being tossed into the grave. And we see the dirt as it starts to cover Anel's white dress. And we see Olivia as she looks on, thinking her daughter is dead. And we think her daughter is dead, right? But suddenly, Anel's eyes suddenly open in a close-up. And Olivia starts to freak out and she starts to react. But since everything is happening in a dream, we can't really make out what she's saying. So she tries to stop the grave diggers from doing it. But she looks down and she realizes that roots have started to come out from the ground and tie her feet and tether her down. So Olivia tries her best to stop the shoveling. But they ignore her and the dirt just keeps on piling and piling on top of her daughter until finally Olivia just screams out loud and we realize that it's a dream. So if you guys can see, by doing these scenes, I'm able to create a visual Bible or just a visual sequence that I can then show my cameraman, I can show my actors, and I can show my makeup artists and production designers the different angles that I want so that it's a lot easier for me to convey my message and for me to explain how I want the scene to be shot. So you may not want to storyboard. You might just want to get your camera and figure things out, which is absolutely fine. A lot of directors work that way. But from my end, especially I find for horror, doing a storyboard before the shoot is a very, very advantageous way of doing a shoot. Okay, let me talk you through some basic camera angles. Okay, so you now have the script. You now have your amazing storyboards, which you've drawn on your notebook. You know how to do makeup already. You've got your actors. You're ready to shoot your slasher film. You're ready to shoot your zombie film. What are some of the angles that you can do to get your story across? Okay, I'm just gonna give you guys some basic shots. Again, all these shots are stuff you can do with your cell phone. The shots that you can do here don't need expensive equipment. All they need is for you to be low to the ground, high on the ground. Yeah. What's important is that you be creative. So an important shot that you'll see not just in horror films, but in most films is called a wide shot, or how we also call it an establishing shot. Now, this shot is important because it sets the world that your story is in. Am I right? So the wide shot kind of shows where is the story set? Oh, this story is set in a creepy old mansion, or this story is set in a town in New York, and there's an exorcist coming to perform an exorcism, or this story is set in a suburban where a monster house is about to create all sorts of havoc on the village. So by doing a wide shot and by setting this establishing shot, you are telling your audience where the world is. And in a way, it's like an invitation. You're inviting the viewer to come into this world. So I would suggest make your wide shot as visually interesting as possible. You know, like use a cool angle, maybe put the angle close to the ground, like the shot you see here in Monster House. Like you can see that the camera's low to the ground to make the house look scary and intimidating. But at the same time, as the viewer, you're kind of intrigued. You're like, ooh, that house looks interesting. Like I'm scared of it, but I think I want to be part of it and go in and be part of the journey. Okay, the next thing that you're going to be shooting, obviously, are people. So you'll be surprised at how camera angles can make a person's mood or the way we view a person different. Like, for example, the simple way to shoot a person is a level angle shot. So as an example, I'm using this very handsome actor. No, I'm just kidding. I'm using this guy as an idea of how a typical camera angle is shot. Okay, it's very level. So in this shot, don't you think I look like just a regular guy? I just look like some normal dude. Now, what would happen if I were to move the camera up and shoot it at a higher angle? suddenly, don't you think I look a little younger? Don't you think I look a bit more vulnerable and scared and a little bit more, I guess you would say, easier to kill because I look like less of a threat. So just by changing my angle, right? I can go from being a regular person to somebody who is suddenly quite scared and afraid of what's happening in the room, of what's going on. So all I'm doing there, guys, is just moving my camera up and shooting downwards. Now at the same time, what would happen if I moved the camera down and pointed it up at me? Suddenly I look a bit more scary, don't I? I look a bit more badass. And suddenly, if here I was looking like a victim with a low angle shot, I'm suddenly looking a bit more like I could be the monster in the story, right? So just by playing with how your camera is positioned, whether it be straight or high or low, you can create a mood. And that is such a cheap and easy way to help you out with how you want to tell your horror story. Okay, another cool way to create tension and suspense in your stories is to do what we call an over-the-shoulder shot. Now, for Mimi, if you're doing a stalker film, and I've seen a lot of stalker films do this, you know, like Halloween, is we always see the hero walking through an alley or through a dark room, you know, and the camera is kind of following behind. Now, what makes this shot so effective in creating a creepy tone is that it places the audience in the same level, right? Let me show you guys that again. So doing this puts the audience in the same space as your character. It almost feels like you're part of the barkada or you're part of the story by following along. And as the character reveals or as the character discovers different information about the story, so will the camera because you're in the same level. So try doing over-the-shoulder shots as you walk around. Okay, another cool shot, which I love seeing in horror films, especially zombie films, is called the POV, or a point of view shot. We see a lot of POV shots on Instagram by all these influencers, you know, posing with their boyfriends and holding hands. So basically, a point of view shot is when the camera is mounted on your chest or on your face or on your mouth to give the idea that you are the camera looking at what's happening on the screen. So why is this effective for a horror film? So if the over-the-shoulder shot makes the audience feel like a friend of the character, the POV shot makes you feel that you could even be the victim in the shot. So imagine zombies staring directly at you as they start to devour you alive, right? Or at the same. So Anton and Carlo talked about doing Bahay sa Balete as a haunted house. Like, how cool would it be if Carlo put a GoPro on his head and started running through the haunted house and having all the monsters come at him? I think that would be a pretty scary way to shoot the film because the audience is really experiencing it firsthand. So at the same time, just as POV is an effective way of playing the victim, you could also use a POV as the point of view of the monster. And again, we see this a lot in zombie films, wherein the camera is mounted on a zombie as the zombie walks along, you know, the field and chases. So it creates a feeling of terror that you are in the zombie's head and that you too are the killer or the zombie or the monster. But for me, the best use of point of view was in the movie Jaws, wherein Steven Spielberg used the camera as the eyes of the shark. And he was able to just swim underneath all these swimmers underwater. And he was able to create the feeling that their legs are dangling. Oh no, the shark's gonna eat me. And by looking straight up at all the swimmers, which I thought was very terrifying. So again, if you guys haven't seen Jaws, I highly urge that you guys go see it. So how do you guys get cool POV shots? So you can buy these things from Lazada. If you guys have a GoPro, you can buy a head mount and strap it to your head, or you can buy those chest mounts. Again, you can buy them on Lazada and experiment, have fun. Like put the camera on your dog, on you, on your actor, and have them run around and have the horror unfold and have them capture it from a point of view, which I think is a very, very cool way to tell a horror story. Okay, let's talk about tracking shots. Okay, movement in a horror film, I think, is very important. Okay, a tracking shot is basically anytime a camera moves in and out. Okay, let me just leave the screen for a bit. Okay, you guys have probably heard these words before. Okay, these are words that you'll probably want to learn as a director, so that when you do say it on set, you'll sound cool. Dolly in, dolly out. Tilt up, tilt down, track left, track right. What this is, aside from it being cool sounding moves, is that they are camera moves that you get the cameraman to do to create different feelings. So for example, I'm going to demonstrate it here, guys, okay? Okay, here you go. I don't know if you guys can see me. I will. There you go. Okay. The first movement, I'm going to use my camera as an example, guys, okay? And feel free to chime in. All right. Okay. A dolly in is when you push your camera. I have an even better idea. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to this. Okay, Joker is going to be my actor for this particular scene. Thank you, Joker, for joining me today. Okay. So a dolly in is when you have your camera and slowly push in towards your subject or towards your actor. Okay, that is a dolly in. A dolly out is when you move back your camera. Right? So dolly in, dolly out. It's as simple as that. So again, you can use it with your phone. The cool thing about dolly in and dolly out is that it's a good way to show something of importance, or to show that something in your story is important. So if I'm doing a dolly in shot, it's usually to show the emotion on a person's face, or to show some form of horror that's happening, right? And at the same time, a dolly out, by moving the camera back, is a cool way to reveal and show something that's happening. Usually you get a dolly out like this, when the camera goes back, to show that, oh no, the character is dead. There. And the same thing goes for track left, track right. When you say track left or track right, it usually means you're moving the camera to the left or to the right. And again, these are all important ways to guide your viewer throughout the film, and to hold their hand and to basically show them the pieces of information that you want to show to them. So don't be afraid to move your camera. Okay. Do you guys have any other questions before I move on? Let me just quickly go on. Sorry, let me read your comments, guys. I'm only catching up on your comments now. Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. Dana's screaming. She loves the storyboard. Thank you. All right. Does anyone have any other questions in terms of camera angles? Anyone? No? Okay. So here are some suggestions as to how you can shoot your films, guys, and how to create movement. So you can, if you have a wheelchair or a skateboard lying around, you can place your cameras on them and use them to move side to side or forward to backwards. If your parents have a gimbal, you can use that. I personally don't have a gimbal. I do plan to buy one. So if you do have one, and if you do that, I think that would be a pretty good match for your phone. So move your camera around, guys, when you tell your stories, and I think it'll be quite fun. Okay, I want to share with you guys a film. Who has seen the movie The Others? Anyone? Okay, so I'll share with you guys a scene that talks about a mom who is basically having problems with her daughter because her daughter has been exhibiting like weird behavior, right? So it's a ghost story. So let me show you this quick scene. And what I'll then do is I will show you the different shots that the director used to to help make the scene scary. Okay.
And you need to take the dress off now. You listening to me? Sitting on the floor. But it's clean. It makes no difference. Why can't you ever twist your toe? What's the matter? Where is my daughter? What have you done with my daughter? You mad? I am your daughter.
Whoa. Okay. So did you guys notice some of the shots that I talked to you guys about? So notice in the first shot, this is your establishing shot, right? So notice what's happening in this room is that you see where she is. You can see that it's an old house and that she hears something really creepy happening in the door next to her. So she slowly goes up and she goes in. Okay, notice how the angle changes, guys. How the camera is shooting her from a lower angle as if to show like it's the perspective of the ghost. And then notice how this is now a point of view shot. We now see the ghost through the eyes of the mom and we're looking down. And don't you think it's utterly terrifying because you're seeing it through the eyes of the mom, and as a result of that, you're totally scared because you also don't know like what it could be. Ooh, look at that. Oh, she's like playing with a puppet. How creepy is that? So the mom comes closer. Notice how we then see a dolly shot. Can you guys see that? It's actually a zoom, but then it's almost like the same impression. Notice how the camera slowly moves in closer on the mom's face to show that she's noticing something. And then we see a shot. Again, this is a point of view shot of the mom realizing that her daughter is actually an old lady. And here's where it gets fun. So she slowly walks and the camera tracks along with her. So notice how this is a tracking move with the camera. So the director here uses a lot of point of view shots. Look how this is a point of view shot again. It tracks, creating suspense because you can't really see what the ghost's face is just yet. And then as the mom comes closer and closer, again, a tracking shot, she stops and then she sees that her daughter is actually an old lady. So again, it's, as you can see, guys, it's using those simple techniques: an establishing shot, a tracking shot, a point of view shot to create tension, and edited together with some creepy voices makes for a really scary story. All right? Who loves zombie movies here? I know Anton does. Who loves zombie movies? Who's seen Dawn of the Dead? We all have.
No.
Yeah. All right, check the scene out. And then I'll go through the same thing.
bones here. Vivian, honey, sweetie, are you okay? Oh, an ambulance!
I love that. Zombies rock. Zombies are the best. All right. So, shall we break it down? Okay.
Wow, they're
Notice here-
clapping. Who liked that?
Just clapping. Yeah. Okay. Notice here, guys, that the director uses an establishing shot, but in a different way. He uses a clock as a way to establish the scene. And notice how the clock, when you see the start of the scene, changes time to show that it's early in the morning. So what I'm saying is an establishing shot doesn't have to be a wide shot of a house. It could be a shot of a clock, of someone's face. But notice how using a clock and using photos of a happy family here set the scene for what's about to happen. Okay, notice the dolly shot. So we now see a dolly shot. Dolly shots are awesome. So if you guys can use it a lot. And then we see another dolly shot. But could you say that this dolly shot is also a point of view shot of the little girl, right? As she slowly walks towards the door. Really creepy, right? So by doing a dolly shot that's also a point of view shot, you wonder as an audience, like, who is this person slowly walking towards the door? And then we see another dolly shot. And this time the camera is showing us that the door, something important is going to happen through that door because we're moving slowly closer to it. And then the door opens in a close-up. And notice how you see the little girl. Can somebody tell me the angle of which the little girl is shot? She is shot from a low angle to make her look a bit bigger than she is and a bit scary. And notice how the parents are shot here, guys. The parents are shot from a high angle looking down. And don't you think this makes them look a bit more vulnerable and a bit more innocent? You can really tell that they're about to be the victims here, aren't they? So the dad comes and he looks. And then, no, again, there's a Dalian. Then finally, the little girl steps out from the shadows. Again, a very cool trick. And we reveal that she's infected and now she's a zombie. So again, it's using simple tricks, an establishing shot, a point of view shot, dolly shots, finished with a really scary close-up of the little girl who is now a zombie. So again, it's using a simple series of very clean shots to create dread and to create tension. Yeah? Do you guys have any questions on how else those shots were done?
Or any comments? What did you
Any
like?
comments? Were you guys able to get some ideas as to how you can shoot your film using some of those shots? Exciting. I'm excited to see what you guys do. Oh, somebody has a comment. What shot do you think was the most important or the most scary for you guys? What was the scariest type of shot for you? Tracking, yes. Mimi says tracking. Absolutely, I agree. I think being able to do a tracking shot really creates that feeling of suspense. Somebody said it earlier. Was it Dane that said for her, horror is not always about jump scares? Was that Dane? Dane, was that you? Who said that? Okay, I absolutely agree 100%. For me, what makes a movie scary is not so much jump scares, but it's more of the anticipation, the idea of slowly being subjected and not quite seeing just yet. I actually find like when I watch horror films, they stop being scary for me once I see the monster already. So what I would suggest for you guys, you don't have to follow this or not, is try to keep your creatures or your monsters unseen for as long as you can. And let me give you an example. I find that when you keep stuff in the shadows for as long as you can, it usually ends up being a lot more terrifying, and it's something that you think about more. Can I show you guys something? Yeah? Can I show you guys something? Can you guys see that? Do you think this scene looks scary? Or can you what do you guys see? Can you guys unmute yourselves and tell me what you guys see in this shot? Can somebody tell me?
Wait, never mind. I forgot.
Okay, but when you look at this particular shot, what can you see from the start? Who do you see?
A bed. There's a bed.
Okay, there's a bed, yes. And what else do you see, guys? Who's on the bed?
A boy.
A boy. Okay. Now I'm going to brighten the scene a little bit, okay? Now can you tell me what you see? Do you see anything? Can you guys see anything else? No? Still nothing?
Thing on the ceiling.
Really? How about that?
Yes. That was what I'm talking.
That is actually the boy's mom, who is possessed and is now in the ceiling above him. So it's from a movie called Hereditary. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it yet. Maybe not just yet, but it's one of the coolest horror films I've seen lately. And what I love about this scene, right, is that you can play tricks as a director. You can use light to play tricks on the audience's mind, and by making them look further. I find this type of horror so much more exciting and interesting than just being able to go than doing a jump scare. I find that by doing a scene like this and just letting the audience kind of look into the darkness and slowly unraveling and realizing, oh my God, there's something terrifying in the shadows. For me personally, makes it so much more scary. So have that and try to think of that and keep that in mind, guys. Like when you do your stories. So as a rule, keep stuff in the shadows.
Yeah, think about the times you watch a movie and then you cover your face, waiting to see what will happen next. That's the scary part, right?
Exactly. So something I always do, and this is something I do not just for my horror films, but for commercials. I like the term less is more. By doing less is more, by giving audiences more things to think about, you actually, I think, well, for me, you make it scarier for them rather than just trying to jump scare them. But having said that, jump scares are also fun. So if you want to do a jump scare type of movie, go off and have fun and just do it. So I'm very excited to see you guys go out and scare people, scare your parents, scare your friends, because as we all know, being scared is a good thing. Am I right? Like being scared, being afraid, there's nothing wrong with it. It's as real as an emotion as being happy, being in love, being hungry. So I'm very excited to see what you guys shoot in your films. All right, so that's my presentation. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. I hope you were able to get some ideas for your film. So if you guys want to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram. I'm all orange, and I really look forward to seeing your movies. Thank you.
Thanks, Direct Carlo.
Thank you so much, Carlo. That was. I was okay. I don't watch too many scary films because I do get scared very, very much, and I was already hyperventilating just looking at the techniques that you showed.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So if you guys
when do the movies come out, or when do you guys start shooting?
Well, the deadline is the end of the month, right? October 25. So we're gonna stream it by the 31st. So it's up to them how long. It's only a 5-minute video or less. So it's just
Great.
one scary scene, It's like what Derek Carlo showed. It's just one scene that's scary. That's fine. So up to you. We've heard a few plots already. So we'll
Great.
see. if you guys have any questions, because it's very hard to get direct Carlo. He's a very busy person, so you can ask him while he's still here if you have any questions or ideas or any comments you want to give.
Do you guys have any other questions? Can I be an actor in your movie?
Oh, I love this one by Rain.
Rain has a question. Rain has a question. How do you make something shorter? Rain, I'm assuming your question is regards to how to make a short movie. Is that right?
I have a scary story idea, but the thing is, it's so long, and I can't. There's no way I could even squeeze it into 10 minutes. How do you cut something shorter but still make it scary?
A good way to do it would be to show it to a friend and to a parent or to anyone, and then asking them, what do you think is the scariest part of that film, or what do you think is the most effective, and what do you think could be taken out. Sometimes when you show something that you're attached to other people, they can see it objectively and be honest with you and say, you know what, I think we can do away with this part, but let's stick to this part because it's really short. So you also have to remember, you don't have to feel pressured to tell the whole story. Like, that's why it's called a short film. You could take just 5 minutes from that story and make it into 5 minutes. There's no pressure. Just because you have a whole story doesn't mean you should feel pressure to execute it as a whole film. You can get the best 5 minutes out of that film, or like or the beginning.
It could be like a trailer, like a teaser for the longer version, right?
Yep.
So if you see the short version, you're gonna get scared and you'll want to watch the longer version, right?
Yes. I'm so excited to see your films, guys. Super excited. Mimi, I'm so pumped to see your film, Mimi.
Okay, so thanks again, everyone, for joining our Fright Festival. Thanks, Derek Carlo. So
Thank you, guys. Good luck.
We're going to have an editor, Maui Mauricio, will be teaching you a few tricks on how to edit your movie.
Awesome.
Okay.
This day give me the heebie-jeebies.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment, Uriel. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Have
guys.
fun.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Jacob. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.